Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book, Don't Lead Like a Jerk, How to Lead People, Drive Profit, and Actually Get Stuff Done. So the author here is Karlie Cremin. She's the CEO of Dynamic Leadership Programs Australia, we'll just call that DLPA, as well as Crestcom Australia. And she brings this massive background of navigating those really messy, real-world people challenges we see across construction, government, and not-for-profits. And what she's given us in this book is basically a super practical, straight-talking manual. It's perfectly aimed at the fast-paced, hybrid workplaces we're all actually living in today.
Let's be real for a second. We've all shared the collective trauma of working for a jerk boss, right? You know the exact type. It's that manager who fundamentally confuses their job title with actual competence. The one who genuinely thinks micromanaging is the same thing as having a vision, or even worse, that shouting equals strength. So it really begs the question, why on earth do these toxic, commanding control leaders continue to survive? And how do they keep getting promoted in the modern workplace? Well, as the book points out, it's often because short-term metrics can really easily mask the long-term reality of team burnout. So in this explainer, it's time we redefine what strength actually looks like.
To do that, we're going to walk through our six-part agenda for today. We've got 1. The jerk boss problem. 2. The dynamic leader model. 3. Killing corporate buzzwords. 4. Meaningful one-on-ones. 5. The no surprises rule. And finally, 6. Profit through people. Let's jump right into section 1, the jerk boss problem, and the 3 Ds of bad leaders.
Okay, before we can fix bad leadership, we kind of need to diagnose it first. Cremin identifies what she calls the 3 Ds of terrible leadership. First up, we've got the dormant leader. Think of the boss who is technically employed, but, mentally retired. They're just coasting along. Then there's the distant leader. Now, this boss is incredibly busy, usually holed up writing these massive, completely detached strategy documents while their actual team quietly unravels right outside their office door. And finally, there's the disaster. This is your charismatic chaos merchant. They can deeply energize a room, sure, but then they'll accidentally set it on fire because they have zero organization. Take a look at this list. Which of these archetypes have you had to endure? Or if we're being deeply self-reflective here, which one have you maybe accidentally slipped into yourself?
Moving on to section 2, the dynamic leader model, and the 3 Ps of leadership. The good news? Leadership is absolutely a learnable skill, but it requires a perfect balancing act. Cremin grounds her human-centered philosophy in these 3 Ps. First, proficiency. This just means knowing your craft and actually removing roadblocks so your team can, do their jobs. Second is profit. This acknowledges that leadership exists to drive performance and commercial outcomes. It's a business, not a therapy session, right? And third, people. This is all about cultivating genuine trust and psychological safety. Here's the catch, though. Neglect any single slice of this framework and the whole thing falls apart. If you over-index on profit at the expense of people, congratulations, you've become a ruthless jerk. But if you lean way too hard into people and totally forget about profit, you turn into an ineffective people-pleaser who can't get any results. Balance is quite literally everything here. All right, section 3, killing corporate buzzwords. Let's talk about clear communication.
So many leaders severely overestimate their communication skills because they hide behind this massive buzzword filter. A leader might stand up and say they're initiating a synergistic transformation journey, fully thinking they sound incredibly visionary. But what actually lands on the other side? The team just hears, wow, no one knows what's changing or why. Cremin offers a brutal but fantastic rule of thumb for this. She calls it the dinner test. Basically, if you wouldn't use a phrase over dinner with a friend, you absolutely should not use it at work, period. Leaders really need to stick to the everyday nouns and verbs their team actually speaks on a daily basis.
That brings us to section 4, meaningful one-on-ones and how to shrink workplace hazards.
When we look at day-to-day management, treating your one-on-ones as optional is just a massive mistake. As Cremin points out, it's like canceling the dentist because you have a toothache. If you're dodging these critical check-ins because you feel like you're simply too busy, let's be clear, you aren't saving time. You're just guaranteeing that much more painful, explosive problems are going to surface down the road. Showing up on time for these meetings signals respect, and more importantly, it gives you the space to ask the real human questions, not just the standard project updates.
And the main reason those one-on-ones are so incredibly essential is to prevent what are known as psychosocial hazards. Cremin actually borrows this term straight from occupational health and safety language. Think about it this way. Just like a loose cable on a factory floor is a physical hazard, things like unclear expectations, simmering conflicts, or chronic workload overload are psychosocial hazards. Treating bad management practices with the same serious gravity as workplace safety hazards completely reframes your job as a leader. Your job is hazard control. Consistent, meaningful one-on-ones are exactly how you shrink these hazards before they cause real, lasting damage. Let's slide into Section 5, the no surprises rule. This is all about giving feedback without the flinch. Effective hazard control definitely requires direct communication. To help with this, Cremin provides a highly practical 4-beat script for what she calls kind candor. When you need to have a tough conversation, just follow these steps. 1. Observation. Simply state what happened. For example, I noticed the report was 2 days late. 2. Impact. That pushed the whole team's schedule back. 3. Expectation. We need reports on time so we can hit our client deadlines. And 4, this is key, support. What do you need from me to make that doable next time? See how that works? It totally separates the performance gap from the person's personality, and it gives them a very clear path to fix it. This is literally a tool you can start using on Monday morning.
And finally, Section 6, profit through people.
Empathy and respect, they aren't just warm and fuzzy nice-to-haves. They are actual commercial drivers. But to get those results, we have to challenge a really common bias trap. We often assume that fairness means treating everyone exactly the same. Well, actually, scratch that. Fair does not mean identical. Different team members inherently need different things to succeed. If you treat everyone identically, you're likely just treating everyone equally badly. Plus, you risk falling into the trap of only rewarding the loudest voice in the room, or maybe the person who stays at their desk the latest, which quietly signals to everyone else that their unique working style just doesn't count.
This connects directly to how we reward our teams too. Hollow corporate perks like those mandatory Pizza Fridays simply do not substitute for genuine recognition. True leadership requires noticing the quiet, specific wins. Actually saying to a hybrid worker, "Hey, I saw you dial in at 6 a.m. to fix that bug, thank you," profoundly outperforms a slice of cold pizza. Genuine recognition is a core leadership tool. Because if your team only ever hears from you when something goes wrong, you aren't really leading. You're just standing around watching for mistakes.
We also need to be incredibly careful not to accidentally penalize our very best people through what Cremin calls the competency tax. This happens when your reward for being absolutely amazing at your job is just becoming the unofficial dumping ground for every single urgent task. Overloading your most reliable high performer might look like trust in the short term, but it is a massive psychosocial hazard that will inevitably lead straight to their burnout. Balanced workloads and clear boundaries are not soft skills. They are absolutely essential hazard controls.
Which brings us to a final, slightly provocative thought to leave you with today. I want you to look at your daily habits and ask yourself, are you clearing roadblocks or are you just managing by friction? Are your systems, your meetings, and your communication style actually helping your team get stuff done, or are you the one getting in their way? At the end of the day, great leaders make work simpler, faster, and way more human, all at the exact same time.
If you start implementing these tools and really balancing your people with profit, you'll be well on your way to ensuring you never lead like a jerk. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.